Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, where I, your host, D. Carey, have a nuanced conversation about the ways that travel intersects with regular life. And happy Thanksgiving. This is going to be a gratitude episode. I don't know that I have done an updated one of these. This week, I'm going to be talking about the travel mercies, if you will. A lot of times I talk about how you have to pivot on your travels and how a lot of the initial plans that you may have in mind don't exactly see themselves through. And over the course of the last, say, 4 years or so, it's been some shit. It has been some shit. And I've got a lot to be grateful for because there have been quite the number of pivots. So diving right in. Oh, and as I like to remind you, there's a Substack for the podcast. So you can follow there where I'll give more context to the episodes. Photos included with shit that I mentioned in the episode. If there's an applicable photo, that would be in the Substack. And just a little more background why I wanted to talk about these things, or, you know, information that if I would have gone more into detail into the episode would have turned into more of a rabbit hole, and then we're going off topic, and then you feel me. So I'm trying to keep the episodes a little bit more concise, and add a little more fluff, pizzazz, if you will, to the Substack. So link for that is in the description box. I am D Carey there as well. So you can find me at Substack if you just search D Carey, I'm sure. So this year's gratitude episode. First thing that I'm grateful for is making it home from Cincinnati. So shout out to my man. Grateful for him because I'm a passenger princess. Let me reel it back. Actually, it kind of applies to a good number because a lot of these that I'm seeing, actually, this is actually the, except for one experience, this is, except for two, this is actually like the road trip gratitude episode, if you will, because all these trips, all these pivots were road trips. But I'm a passenger princess. I don't touch the wheel because shout out to my baby. He takes really good care of me and he does 90% of the driving, sometimes 100% of the driving on our trips. So I'm very grateful for that. But I also would like to add that I think that I'm a hell of a co-pilot who is always on the snack duty, always paying attention to the road to see baby slow it down, the cops. And just keep you entertained. So shout out to me for being a great passenger, but thank you to him for actually doing all the driving. But one of the trips that the driving was something special because my car didn't make it home. We road tripped. I believe it started with us going to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to visit my college. Well, not even visit. My college roommate was getting married. Congratulations again, Mary. And hey, Justin. We drove down to North Carolina for her wedding, and then we detoured to my bestie's house who lives in Kentucky. Hey, Del. We visited her and her daughter, and we ended up extending that stay in Kentucky a little bit longer because we can. And then we were going to just drive to Cincinnati. I think we were supposed to be in Cincinnati for maybe 2 nights, and we ended up just doing like one night. It was one of those trips where I didn't necessarily plan too much, and it was her birthday, so I left a little bit of flexibility um, to allow for the extra day, should it make sense if she didn't have other stuff planned, because it was a surprise visit. Um, a surprise planned by her, I think at the time, 11-year-old. My little baby Lucy, who also recorded a really fun episode of Travel and Shit. I'll put the link to that in the description box. Let me write that down so that I don't forget. Lucy Ep in the script. But we ended up driving to Cincinnati after leaving Kentucky, and that was supposed to be like on the loop the leg of the way home. We were going to stop in, I think, Cincinnati, then we were going to do Pittsburgh, and then back to New York. By the time we were maybe an hour outside of Cincinnati, we stopped at a Valero, I want to say, to get gas. When we left that car, when we left the gas station, got on the highway, and we started noticing there's like a knock, 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 knock. The car is starting to make sounds. But when you're on the highway, everything, it's, you can't hear the sounds your car makes the same on the highway and on like residential roads or more city streets. Like it's just different. And baby, on the highway, we could hear it. But when we got on residential streets, like right, like when we got into the city, it was obnoxiously loud. We didn't even realize how fucking loud it was. I tried to record a video to send it to my dad, be like, can you diagnose this from here? And he's like, no. Um, I don't know what it is. And so we ended up finding a AAA. Oddly enough, we stayed at a Sonder for that trip in Cincinnati, and that room was so fly. That was one of the flyest rooms we stayed in. It was absolutely gorgeous, like a loft that had like an open bedroom space. So it was like a little cutout for the bedroom, which was also quite large, but there were just like no doors to it. So still loft, right? So oddly enough, there was a service station, like a mechanic across the street from where we were staying. I believe it may have been like AAA affiliated. Don't fucking remember. But I do remember that for some reason they couldn't help us. So we ended up having to find one that was in a neighboring town. Wasn't even sure if the car, at this point, we didn't really know what was wrong with the car. Wasn't sweating it. We ended up going out, had a great night, hopped around to a couple different bars. Good times. Next morning, we ended up driving it to it was definitely a AAA shop, and they quoted me like 8 grand. Said it was the engine was done. I hadn't even paid 8 grand for that car at the time I was driving. I hadn't named the car. I named every other car except for this car. No, I've not named. I've had a lot of different cars, but this one I didn't fucking name. And I think I paid like $4,000 for this car in, I don't know, maybe 2013, 20, no, I think it was around 2016. It might have been around 2016 I got this car. And it made it to, damn, only like 2019. I could be lying to you. I don't remember when I actually got the car. Dates, not really my thing. But she served me well. We did a lot of road tripping in it. Had a great time. The engine fucking died in Cincinnati. So I had to leave all of my shit in the car. Thankfully, we were able to get it into a parking garage and not leave it on the street because I had my tags. Like I had everything. Like we had luggage. We had to get back home. But because it was a road trip, we had definitely fucking overpacked. So we grabbed the stuff that was going to accommodate us on the plane and not like the extra bags, threw all of our shit like in the trunk, safely tucked everything away, parked it up into a lot. And then I had to work on getting it home. Again, shout out to my man because that was his pet project. He ended up having to call a bunch of different tow agencies to see who could get the car from Cincinnati back to New York for the best price and in the most reasonable amount of time. Um, and also shout out to my best friend because when the tow truck, it was something about the fucking keys. I don't know that there was someone that we could leave the car key with so that the tow truck company could actually get the car out the lot and then onto the flatbed. Yeah, it was a fucking mess. But my bestie was about to drive from, at the time she was in Hopkinsville. She was about to drive from Hopkinsville to Cincinnati, which I think was about 4 hours one way, to drop off the keys. Cause asked what it was. I was going to overnight her the only remaining like key I had for that car. Of course, had the car keys to drive the car, but then I had my spare at home. I was going to overnight her my spare key so that I think she could go and get my stuff out the car if we couldn't find somebody to pick it up. It was something, y'all. But thankfully I was at the post office about to put my shit, like I think I actually gave the woman the envelope with the key. And then I got a phone call from the guy and I was like, "Oh, miss, I don't need to send this anymore. Like, this is my only other key. If something happens to this, it's a dud." So it all ended up working out, is the point. It was quite costly. I think I spent over $1,500 to get the car back up here. Um, a time and done, over with, bought a new car. Love it. Her name is Grace. We have made it through. But that was hella fucking stressful. We ended up actually having, well, another thing that was stressful about that trip is that boyfriend had a full voucher, like a flight voucher from like early COVID, when he ended up having to cancel past travel plans that he had before we had met. And unfortunately, there was another name on one of the other tickets. So they wouldn't let him recoup that credit. It could only go to the person whose name was on that ticket. And so thankfully his flight was covered, but then we ended up having to pay for my flight back home because we had to fly home from Cincinnati, because how the fuck else are we getting home from Cincinnati, right? Yeah, wild little weekend. Thankfully, it happened at the end of the trip, though, and not before my girl got married. So I was very grateful for that. I was able to see my best friend for her birthday, and I was able to see my roommate get married. So gratitude, gratitude. That ended up working out nicely. Um, Next one I'm gonna mention, Montreal. I want to say this was probably, it was either like our first or second time in Montreal. We've been quite a few times at this point. Montreal, if you don't know about me, little bingo fact about your girl D. Montreal is my favorite city. I love, 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 love going to Montreal. Honestly, don't know if I would live there though. I could see spending like a long time there. Like I could see spending like maybe weeks, maybe a couple of months, 2, 3 months at a time. I don't know that I would necessarily move to Montreal though. I have no intentions of learning French, no desire to learn French. Um, so it's not that it would be a full stop. You don't have to know French to be in Montreal, but all the signage is in French. So, and there's enough shit that you got to read that if you were there for, an extended period of time, that it could get on your nerves. It would get on my nerves. But one of the nights, well, on the first night we got there, we ended up having to ask police officers who happened to be on the street that we were trying to park on what was going on with the signage, because we were trying to use Google Translate, but it was still a little confusing. It had to do with like resident passes, where on the block you could park without a resident pass, and then certain hours. It was a little tricky. And so they were able to clarify. We found a space that we were going to be safe in. It was not for residents, because if you are on certain blocks without a resident pass, you're unallowed to park there. I think that you can actually purchase one of those passes, which is wild because then it's just paid parking. And then just say that. But like, weird, right? So we found some place that wasn't requiring a pass, left the car there, had a great day. I think on like the second or maybe third night, we were walking back to the Airbnb one night, and we noticed a couple of blocks from where we were staying, there were a bunch of little signs being placed by some guys in a pickup truck. Like they were just, driving down the street, hop out the car, take out a sign, place it down. And the signs were saying like no parking the next morning, from maybe like say 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because they were doing construction in the area. So it was like, oh damn. So they they just randomly put down signs in the middle of the night that says no parking. Well, how do people want to know? Like, what if you are in your house sick? Or what if you, like, your partner picked you up from your apartment, you left your car there, and y'all went and stayed at their house for a couple of days? I don't fucking know. Plenty of reasons why you don't go outside and check on your fucking car, right? So we were thinking to ourselves, oh, that's pretty fucking buns. Good luck to those people. And sure enough, we loop a few blocks closer to the Airbnb and realize, oh, there is now a sign on the block where we are parked. Thankfully, we saw it and were able to move the car to a location that did not have those signs and was not going to be, you know, in the construction zone that just magically appeared apparently overnight to be taken care of the next day. I don't know what I would have fucking done had my car been towed in Canada in French. Like, I don't know what those costs are. I don't know where to fucking go. I don't know what number to call to try to figure that out. And for all intents and purposes, I don't know that our Airbnb host would have known either. And at that point, had it happened, we'd have been relying on, say, Google, the kindness of a random stranger that may or may not have known me. Like, who do you even ask? My car got towed in a different country, and I don't even speak the language that, like, plenty of people speak English. Don't get me wrong, but it's a French speaking country. Excuse me, it's a French speaking province in the country of Canada. And neither of us speaks French. Those were headaches that I did not want. And I am so grateful that we were out late enough and at that time that we were able to see and make accommodations to not be caught up in that clusterfuck. So, super excited about that and grateful. Another thing that I'm grateful for, our Vermont trip. That was our first trip together. I'm grateful for that as it stands. We had a fantastic time. We drove up to Johnson, Vermont, and I'd never been to Vermont before. It was my first time visiting, his first time also. And when I tell you, this was back in the car where the engine died. This was my Hyundai. And the Hyundai, cool for, in the city, but those headlights, not for the country. We couldn't see shit. We could literally maybe see 3 feet in front of the car with those headlights, even with the high beams on. The high beams were perfectly fine for city driving, but when you are driving where there is no light and your headlights are the only source of light, completely inadequate. It was terrible because deer, moose, bears, whatever's running out into the streets and all that, we'd have been like right up on it before we noticed it. So when we got into the area that was not on the highway and it's still, don't know, I don't know if I can call it residential, but like off highway area where there are still like rural roads or just stretches where there's expanse. You don't know if it's open space because again, there are no lights. So you don't know if there are homes that are on the side. You don't know what's going on because all you can see is the road ahead of you. And one of those areas, unbeknownst to us because of the utter darkness, the road kind of like dropped completely off into like a stream on the side of the road. And we had no idea that that was there. So I am very grateful that we were able to, that was like one of the more difficult night drives that we undertook. And I drove that one. And I'm a good driver. I'm gonna hold you. My dad was a truck driver. My daddy taught me how to drive. I whip it, okay? And your girl could park. I am a very good parallel parker, by the way. Just had to put that out there. Bingo fact number 2. If you need somebody to parallel park something, I will do it for you. A sedan, or like a car, or like a truck. Not like a truck, not a pickup, but like my dad used to have a Chevy Blazer. I could park that bitch too. But I got you on the parking. But we did not know the conditions of the surrounding area. So it was just like, all right, we're going to do this smooth 10, 20 miles max, if we even did that much, just because we could not see that far ahead of us and unfamiliar terrain. The next day or the day following, whatever day we ended up going out during the day to go to like a grocery store, or I don't know what the fuck we were doing. Actually, I think the only time we left that cabin was the day that I went to get my tattoo in Burlington. And we were driving during the day and realized, oh fucking shit, the road completely drops off and there is a creek here, a stream. We could have been in that bitch because you could not see that the road just completely was gone. There was no shoulder. There's no side of the road. I don't believe that there were even there may have been a line, but again, this wasn't like a major highway. This was like a turnoff to go towards the private road that I think brought us into the cabin area. So just so grateful that that didn't go terribly. And it, again, it's one of those things where if you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. Or like you would have just had to see it to believe it kind of thing, if that makes sense. It was just like oh wow, that's kind of scary. Glad we're okay. Um Maine. Oh, similarly, like I was talking about, deer and shit jumping out. There was a deer that ran across the road while we were in Maine most recently. Most recently, because this time was the only time I've been to Maine. But we recently went on an incredible road trip. We did a New England road trip. Also, there is a New England road trip itinerary pack. So if you would like to visit the locations that I saw in New England, I've got that planned out for you so that you can go have a loose idea of what to do so that you can just show up and have a good time and not spend your time planning. Description for that is in the link for that is in the description below. And there's going to be a Black Friday sale. Can't tell you when it's going to end. So if you're listening to this not on Thanksgiving, stay tuned for there's going to be a newsletter. I'm just going to send a newsletter about that. So it'll either be on the Substack or if you're on the mailing list already. Again, that description will be, I keep saying description, that link will be in the description box below. But there's a Black Friday sale on the itinerary packs for the road trips. That'll be down there. But while we were driving to Maine, there was a street that we had to turn off to get to Perry's, the lobster shack. Wow, fucking good. Like, so damn good. And we always missed it because it was like some weird, like, driveway looking, or it was just a street that always crept up on us and didn't necessarily, oh shit, like, there it is, right? So the first time or the second time, I don't remember what time it was. I'm pretty sure it was the first time. But we were driving, missed the turnoff, continued forward a little bit more, and then we're going to do a U-turn. But it was in a curve kind of area. So you don't really want to do a U-turn in a curve because you don't know how fast somebody is coming around and you're doing all your the Austin Powers thing, I don't know if y'all remember that when he tried to do the U-turn with the little airport truck thing in that hallway. We were doing the U-turn, and sure enough, right as we like slowed up to do the turn, deer ran out into the middle of the road. I am so glad that we did not hit that fucking deer. So grateful. Thankfully, it wasn't like right in front of us, so it was just like still like jarring, and you do something and it just kind of messes up. I don't know how to turn that off. If you're watching on YouTube, there's like a ton of confetti that's going on. I don't know how to turn off the hand things, and I'm a hand talker, so have fun with that. But I'd say it was maybe like 25 feet ahead of us on the street, and it was a cute little deer, but it was like I'd rather see the cute deer in the trees on the side, not like on the road in the area where I need to be. You feel me? So so grateful that it was close enough to see, ooh, cute, but also far enough to be like, ooh, no sudden movements. And we didn't have to, like do something sooner than we wanted to. And we were able to, turn around, go about our way. Everything was cool. But of course, that gave me the agita. So now I'm stressed every time we on the road out there that something's going to jump the fuck out, because there was also wild turkeys just making their way back and forth across the properties. We would go outside. We spend enough time outside. You just hear shit like moving around in there. And I'm a city girl. I don't think that I could live like that long term. I don't think that's for me. I could see having a property that I visited often, but I don't know. That unknown don't really sit too tight with me. So that was Maine. Super grateful for that. This is one in Dallas, and I am grateful for this one. We didn't drive in Dallas. We actually flew out to Dallas. We did some driving while in Dallas. We did from Dallas to OKC to see Mark Ribier. And actually, okay, tangent, little side quest, if you will, in the gratitude. I am grateful that we made the decision to do that trip and to include the tour stop that he had in OKC, because it turns out I don't know when after we saw him, but he ended up breaking his tailbone or something, fracturing a tailbone. He fucked himself up. He got hurt and didn't finish out the rest of that tour. It was, I think, the third dose tour. And he's okay. I'm glad he's okay. I've, since seen him out and about and doing things, so I'm pretty sure he's fully healed. But yeah, he ended up canceling the tour, I think, before he got to the Brooklyn stops. And the Brooklyn stops, I want to say either they sold out before we got them, or there were just like the one Brooklyn date that was available wasn't like the preferred date. It was a couple of reasons why we didn't do the Brooklyn, and we ended up choosing to do OKC. And also it was because, all right, well, we'll be in Dallas. We might as well just get a rental anyway so that we're not relying on his friends that are out there that also like work and got shit going on that couldn't necessarily, drive us around. And it ended up actually being for the best that we had that rental because of the other reason why I'm grateful, but I'm grateful that we were able to see an artist that we were both very much looking forward to seeing and that we both really enjoy listening to. And yeah, super grateful for that. Um, but on that trip, while we were out in Dallas, shout out to past guest Danielle of Alma Swim, Alma Swim, which is also, she's also got, I think, Alma Swim Foundation. Danielle's doing so much incredible stuff in the encouraging Black people to swim space. And we have actually gotten super cool. And she was in Dallas with a company that she was working with at the time, like that super big bouncy house. I don't know if it's the world or the country's like largest bounce house or something like that, but they tour around the country. And it turns out she was in Dallas while we were in Dallas. I don't know how I saw, or I was like, girl, you in Dallas? She was like, yeah, I'm in Dallas. Y'all out here? Pull up. She gave us the star treatment. Myself, my boyfriend, and my boyfriend's best friend and his wife now also, they did an episode with us about planning a destination wedding. So if you are planning on being a guest to a destination wedding or planning a destination wedding yourselves, let me put Mark and Nicole so I can put that link in the description box as well. But Mark and Nicole were also really incredible guests who did an episode with me, and I'll drop that. And they're pregnant. I'm so excited for them. We traveled to their wedding. I think it was the beginning of this year or the beginning of last year in February in Mexico. But Danielle hooked the four of us up, got us straight to the front of the line, got us in. We actually were able to go to the bounce house first. So we had like a couple of minutes in the whole thing by ourselves, which was really fucking cool. It was such a really cool experience. We had a fantastic time. Um, then there was another area where there was like an obstacle course, so I got to live out my guts. I don't know how old all of y'all are, but if y'all remember Guts I think it was on Nickelodeon, Legends of the Hidden Temple. I got to live out those dreams, y'all. It was such a great experience. I had so much fun, and I'm so grateful to Danielle for that. So definitely, I'm gonna put the link to her episode in the description box as well. Check her out. She's doing incredible things and encouraging, again, Black people to swim. Um, and we love to show love to past guests over here at Travel and Shit. And the next one that I'm going to mention is Nashville. This is another really, really grateful moment for me because I've got some incredible best friends. Dominique, Courtney, and Delnat. But this one in particular, Del surprised me with tickets to Renaissance Tour. I knew she was getting tickets for her daughter as a surprise. And so I was all excited, like, oh, we're gonna bring the baby. That's gonna be so much fun. Y'all gonna have a great time. I wasn't pressed for tickets because I knew there was a wait list and there was this and there was that. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't gonna do it. Um, and lo and behold, my girl says, oh, and you're coming too. So I was super grateful. We had such a good time. I ended up flying out to Dallas. We had a girls trip. I stayed, I think it was the Joseph Hotel. I know it was walking distance. I believe it was in Nashville. I think the stadium she performed at was Nissan Stadium, and the hotel was walking distance. And I know that it is, I believe, Marriott affiliated. Gorgeous hotel. I'm pretty sure it was, I think it was the Joseph. I don't know, but gorgeous hotel. So I got the hotel. She got the tickets. It was a really great hotel experience. Fantastic concert experience. We had a great time. Um, However, while I was grateful for those tickets, what ended up happening was my flight home either got canceled or delayed. Some wild shit. I wasn't able to go. Thankfully, I had the next day off. Like I didn't fly home on say like a Sunday because my flight ended up, or did I have the Monday off? I don't know. Some shit happened. I wasn't flying out when I was supposed to happen. And shout out to my girl Erica, a friend that I made through Dell, one of Dell's friends that actually lives in Nashville, Erica, who is also the plug for last minute problems. Like Dell ended up not being able to pick me up from the airport, so Erica came through in the clutch and she was able to pick me up from the airport. So thank you for that, girl. Again, grateful that my bestie has incredible people around her and that her incredible people extend to being my incredible people. So Erica wasn't even home when my flight got delayed. Dell was able to drop me at E's house. She remotely opened her house for me to let me in, and I stayed at her house with her dogs and chilled there until she came home. And then I stayed there the night because my flight ended up being the next day at maybe like 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning. But Dell lives at the time, again, remember I mentioned she lived in Hopkinsville in Kentucky. And so Hopkinsville and Nashville, I think, are like 2, 3 hours apart. So it was like, I don't want Dell to drive from Nashville. Like we were already in Nashville for the concert. They were driving back home to Hopkinsville, but my flight was out of Nashville. So it didn't make sense for me to go back to Hopkinsville for them to have to come back wild early in the morning. I think it was like a 6 a.m. flight because I remember we were going to have to wake the baby. The baby, Lucy was probably like 12, I think, but still, we'd have to wake we'd have to drag the kid with us. You know what I mean? At like 3 o'clock in the morning for me to be able to make it for like my 6 a.m. flight. So we didn't want to do all of that. And my girl Erica came through. Congratulations on your beautiful baby, Erica. Erica ended up having a baby, I think 4 months. Baby K just made 4 months. He's so gorgeous, so gorgeous. And I am so grateful to my friends for sharing their friends with me and for them sharing themselves and their kindness with me. So that is something that I am truly, truly grateful for having people love on me far from home when things go wrong. Um, and another bestie experience, we went to NOLA last year. I think I actually got the t-shirt on under here, but that was my first, what do you call it? Essence Fest. That was my first Essence Fest. We went out there this past summer. No, was it this summer or was it? Let me see. I can look at the shirt and see what the date was. June 30th to July. Oh, they haven't got the year on the front. Thanks, y'all. I don't know. It was the year with Meg Thee Stallion, Janelle Monáe. Oh, there it goes. 2023. So it was last summer. Had to check. Told y'all, dates are not my thing. So it was just last summer and I already forgot. Jesus Christ. We were in the clusterfuck that was all of those flight cancellations. Our flight was supposed to, let's say I think the first show was like on, so the last show was on Sunday, Saturday. So I think the first show was on Friday. I want to say we were supposed to fly into New Orleans on Wednesday. Wednesday, like my grandma would say. Boyfriend and I were supposed to have that Wednesday to ourselves. Like it was just going to be us. We're going to do our cutesy little couple shit. And then Dell was coming in on Thursday. Well, since the flight got canceled, they were going to try to move us to a flight on, say, I think Thursday night or Friday morning or some shit. But this was around this, everybody's shit was canceled. Multiple flights were canceled. So there was no guarantee we were even going to be able to get on that next flight. Like the next flight wasn't even later in the day. It wasn't even the next day. It was some extended shit, and we were going to end up missing even more of our reservations and the shit that we had planned. And we did not want to risk getting there on Friday just to be able to get like then have to go right to the concerts. We wasn't doing that. Plus, we spent mad bread on the fucking hotel. We stayed at a Sonder, really great accommodation. I think we were there for I think we were supposed to be there for close to a week. Yeah, I think we were supposed to be there like Tuesday to Saturday or some shit like that. I don't fucking remember, y'all. But we ended up, again, boyfriend was on the phone early that morning checking things, and he ended up seeing off rip that the shit was canceled. And we ended up calling before they even sent all the alerts and all of that stuff, because he was like checking. I don't know how the fuck he figured it out, but he knew before we even got the alerts. We called, we talked to the people, and we just decided, you know what? Cancel the flight. We're going to drive. Good people. That was like a 24-hour trip. We drove from New York to New Orleans almost nonstop. And did I drive at all? I had to have. I think he drove back the whole way. But the way back, we actually ended up, that's not even a plot twist, but an addendum. Grateful for my fucking cousin, because my cousin lives in Virginia, and I told her, check this out. We're going to be driving back, and can we stay at your, what was it? Yeah, I think we ended up having more. I think I had more time off on the back end. Did I have time? Was that the trip that we stayed at her house? Y'all, I don't remember. Again, dates and specific details I be struggling with. That's why I got a list here. This is why I got a list. But they canceled them flights. My man drove me down there, and we only missed one day. It took us an entire day to get there. The day that we were supposed to be all canoodled up and run around the streets in New Orleans together, we was in the fucking car. But we made it there safely. We did not stop in accommodations. We had to pull over and like power nap a few times. So traveling mercies, those rest stops, we stayed safe. We didn't get sick from being like awake for a long amount of time. No accidents. Again, I cannot stress safe. We drove an entire fucking day. All we did was pull over to the side of the road, take like a 45 minute to an hour nap, because you don't want to be on the side of the road for no 3-4 hours. Like, that's a little sketch. You know what I mean? Anything could fucking go wrong at that point. So you pull over, do what you got to do, take a little power nap. There were some areas, I know there was one truck stop that we pulled over, and we got like, I think a good 2-3 hours. That was like the most, but that was like not on the side of the road, that we were able to pull off. And there was an area where we could park. That's one of those things that I haven't necessarily completely figured out, like logicked out in my mind, if you will, right? And I'm curious, maybe you guys can weigh in. Feel free to shoot me an email. But is it safer to pull over, right? Like say let's just assume this is a parking lot so that we're all on the same page. Let's assume we're in a parking lot, and this parking lot is like, say, a large Walmart. Would you feel safer pulling up right to the front where people are, say, you know what, let's not even use the Walmart. Let's just use a traditional rest stop on the side of a road. Like the Walt Whitman rest stop, if you're along the East Coast. These are the ones that are generally generic. They all kind of look the same. There's like the Roy Rogers. Do they still have the Roy Rogers in there? I don't think I've seen a Roy Rogers in a couple of years. But they'll have like a Chipotle, they'll have the Dunkin' Donuts, they'll have the Starbucks, they'll have the bathrooms, and then like tons of candy options and shit like that. The newsstands is the ones that are on the side of the highways in the States, right? So would you rather, or would you feel safer parking your car at the front where people are kind of coming and going and sleeping there? or would you feel safer kind of tucked away, further away from the entrance in like a back corner area where there aren't necessarily going to be a lot of people coming and going? I don't know. I don't necessarily want to sleep with everybody like knowing that I'm asleep there. I don't like the idea of that. I could say that maybe a little safer because there are eyes on you, but something about that don't feel right, you know? But we ended up having a good experience, all things considered. We got there. We still had, we were able to get there, I want to say Thursday. I don't remember if we got there a few hours before or a few hours after Dell got there, but we got in. We had a day to kind of woosah from the drive. Went, ate, came in, slept. Next day was the first day of the concerts. Went to the convention center, had a good time. Concert, fan fucking tastic time. Like, y'all, I had a dream. Sadly, we didn't stay for the third day, but what was interesting about that concert, what's interesting about Essence Fest is that all of the artists that I loved down for that show, and even one artist that I wanted to see that we were supposed to see, because Thames was supposed to be day 2. Someplace in there, they moved her to day 3. We were big fucking mad. But I saw Janelle Monáe for the first time, and I'm a new Janelle Monáe fan. Essence Fest, I started listening to her content like leading up to the concert, baby. And then I saw her live, baby. Janelle Monáe's concert because after we saw her at Essence Fest, we ended up going to see her later that year. I think it was maybe like November, December of last year. We went to go see her in Radio City. Perfection. Perfection. I actually enjoyed Janelle Monáe's concert more than I enjoyed Renaissance. Hands, I absolutely did. I did. For me, that was my experience. I had such an incredible time seeing Janelle Monáe, but I loved her in Essence Fest. And I was just like, if I could get a whole concert of her, I'm there. Did that. Loved it. Saw Missy, was blown the fuck away. Like, whoa, at Essence. I said, this is fucking nuts. I love this. Always been a Missy fan. Been a Missy fan since I was a kid. And being able to then attend like her first headline concert, because she headlined a concert this summer that we went to. Again, in fucking sane. Blew my mind. Her dancers, y'all, Janelle Monáe's dancers, like all the dance. Shout out to dancers. Love the dancers. Speaking of dancers, one of Beyonce's dancers is my homegirl Amanda. Got an episode with Amanda. That's also going to be in the description box for you as well. Y'all, there are so many incredible conversations that I've had with people. I have some of the most incredible guests. Travel is so much more than vacation. Y'all know I tell you this every fucking week. There are so many ways that travel just happens to intersect with regular life. People travel for work, like Amanda. She's traveled the world dancing for some of the world's biggest celebrities. And that's an experience in itself. Fucking Danielle, she traveled with the bounce house. And also when we travel, swimming happens for a lot of us. Part of our vacations is getting in some fucking water. But if you can't swim, that might be problematic or look a little different for you. Some adults are looking to learn how to swim so they can also further enjoy their vacations when they go places. Yeah. Also for safety, because you don't want to go with children perhaps, and God forbid something happens and you don't feel prepared or secure being the person to be able to help the child if they should need your assistance in the water. Mark and Nicole, Destination Weddings. We travel for those as guests and as the people that are, I guess, facilitating the wedding, if you will. Travel involved in that. And then the Lucy episode is a kid's rendition or having a conversation with a child. What are the babies thinking? What is an 11-year-old thinking about travel, do they consider themselves a traveler? Lucy travels to go see her dad in a different state. So she's been an unaccompanied minor. What is that experience like for a kid? There are so many little ways, and I do my damnedest to help you guys open your eyes and to see that travel is so many more things than you may actually think it is. That you are well traveled. You are more well traveled than you think you are, even if you haven't necessarily left your home country or even your home state. There are so many different ways for you to envision and see travel, and then you can see yourself in those spaces and in the spaces around you. But that yeah, that last NOLA flight cancellation, the most wrapping up that final thought, we missed Thames at um Essence Fest, but then we saw her in Montreal. We recently saw Thames in Montreal, and y'all, she, first of all, is drop dead gorgeous. Body for days, we know this, but gorgeous. And sounds so good. Like, she sounds so good live. She sounds so good live. So is Janelle Monáe. But like, I was just so blown away by her on stage by herself. I don't think Thames had any dancers. She may have had dancers come out for like one song or so or whatever. I don't think so. But it was pretty much like a solo setup on the stage. Another incredible concert. I went to quite a number of concerts in, like, say, the last 2 years. Concerts, Broadway. Baby, I love a show. I love a show. But I have so much to be grateful for. For my friends. Thank you, Dell. I love you, girl. To my man, Jay, I love you. To Erica, girl, I love you. Thank you so much. To all the people and all the ancestors and all the spirits that are protecting me and mine on our trips while we travel, I am so grateful for you as well. And I'm grateful for you guys for letting me accompany you on your road trip, on your commute to work, on your shower time, bathroom time, wherever you listen to the podcast. I'm grateful for you for joining me every week or when you decide to join. I'm grateful to have you here. And I hope that you are grateful for your own experiences of travel, whether they be near or far. And I hope that you all are traveling safely for this holiday. I hope that you are traveling in joy and that you enjoy the destination and the people that are there when you get there, and that you enjoy the love that is surrounding you. And for those of you, especially, that are having a difficult time during the holidays, because I know holidays can also be a time for us to kind of sit in grief and loss. And unfortunately, not everybody has everybody that they would want with them. My heart is with you. My love goes out to you so deeply. I've got a special hug and a kiss for you. It's not going to replace the people that aren't here with you, but know that there are people who care, that you know that you are loved and that you are appreciated and that you are being thought of during a difficult time. And I hope that you all find love and joy in this season. And I will see yous next week to talk more about travel. Bye, y'all.